Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 El Paso Black Expo virtually. I'm your special host, Curtis Smith, and then we have two special guests today as we continue to talk about health, wealth, music, and arts. Today, we have a special guest. Today, we have Mr. Ronnie Dukes and Dr. Elvira Dukes. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Curtis. Thanks for having us.
All right. Where did Ronnie go? Wait on Ronnie. Once again, this is the Black Expo, so we're going to give you guys an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, uh, what are your things that you got coming up in the community. Let everybody know about what's happening with you guys and what you have DukesComics.com and what you do at Utep. So since he's not here yet, I'm going to start with you when he gets in, and we'll begin with him. So, Dr. Dukes, tell us a little bit about yourself. I think you're muted.
My apologies. I do teach online,
Right.
but I still forget sometimes. Thank you all. Thank you, Curtis. Thanks for that welcome. I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. My mom, she's from Chihuahua, Mexico, and my dad, he's from El Paso, Texas. But I grew up in Chaparral, New Mexico, which is north of Northeast El Paso, south of White Sands Missile Range. I went to Gadsden High School and then got a scholarship to go to college. I'm first generation in my family. I went to the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities, and that's where I met Ronnie in Minneapolis. And then I got a Master of Fine Arts in Film from Columbia University in the city of New York. So I lived in Harlem. We lived in Harlem for about 7 years and got a major street education, especially when it comes to Black history and culture and identity. We were very fortunate to be part of New Heritage Theater Group and Rosa Rivers, and my mentor was Jamal Joseph. And then I came back to El Paso to earn my doctorate's degree, my PhD in rhetoric and composition. So I'm my dream, my goal, though, what I am is I'm a writer and I work in creative mediums such as comic books.
Oh, well, great. Thank you for that intro. Welcome to the show. Mr. Rodney Dukes, tell us a little about yourself and how you met your beautiful wife.
Thank you very much. My name is Ronnie Dukes, and I'm from South Shore, south side of Chicago, and currently in El Paso. And I actually met my wife during undergrad. I was destined. I was really determined to get away from Chicago and explore some other place, and so I decided to go to Minneapolis. And I met my wife probably one of my first few days in Minneapolis, and I've been in love with her ever since.
That's great.
And that's how we started our adventure together.
Yeah. We might have to bring
Yeah.
y'all on another show and tell you how you keep your love, lasting so long after all those years, 7 years in New York City, and then you met her in Minnesota. So that's what, 4 years in Minnesota together?
Yeah, actually, probably even longer, like maybe six or so.
Okay.
And this adventure started around 1996 or so,
Okay.
and so it's been a few years.
Yeah, that's been a few. Hey, congratulations to both of you.
Thank
Um,
you.
hey, nothing's wrong with love, man. And we'll definitely be talking to you, Ronnie, to get you to come on one of the other shows that the Mocha
Absolutely.
Enterprise have, or Sweet 915 or Black on the Border, to talk about love and how you keep it spicy and keep it going and being a unit that I read your bio, and you guys are truly a unit, so to do the things that you're doing, that's
That's
great.
true.
So I just want to ask you guys a few questions. We're not going to keep you long, but we just want to know from you, Ronnie, as a Chicago native, how was your experience growing up in the Windy City?
Sure. I'll tell you, my experience was great overall. There was a lot of opportunities for me as a young artist, as a person who wanted to learn about the world. Everybody was there, all the different cultures and everything. But at the same time, as a Black man, a Black young person, a boy living in Chicago, there was also certain, you know, survival rules and things like that that you grew up with, as far as like certain behavior and things like that, like
Hmm.
not gathering in groups and things like that because it makes you targets for the police and
Oh,
for,
okay.
and also too because of gang violence and things like that. So I that's one of the reasons why I developed so much as an artist, is because I actually couldn't play outside a lot, you know. So
Mhm.
the reading and drawing and things like that was a huge outlet for me, and it was highly encouraged by my family as well.
Okay. Um, what is art in your own words? If I can ask you that, what is art in your own words?
Sure. Art is the expression. Just you have to get something out. There is some art that is like very useful and very meaningful and impactful to the entire world, and that's in its own level, its own right. But there's so many things that are art, and there's a lot of different spaces for a lot of different kinds of art,
Mm,
from stick figure, you know, stories to wonderful motion pictures or anything like that.
okay. Okay. Dr. Dukes, please tell us a little bit about your current position as a professor at Utep. Oh, did we lose her?
Okay, yes. So currently, I'm an assistant professor of instruction for Chicano studies at Utep. And basically, what that means is it's an ethnic studies program, and we focus on the experience and the history and the culture of Mexican American people, or people of Mexican heritage that grew up in the United States.
Mm,
And I love this discipline because I have so many interdisciplinary interests, such as film, journalism, theater, and now rhetoric and composition. And so Chicano studies is a field that allows me to sort of touch on all of those subjects within the perspective of Chicano studies. And so I use a lot of critical race theory in my own work as a researcher and a scholar, and definitely use it in my teaching.
mm,
And it's something that, you know, has been under debate. It's in a national debate right now, where critical race theory is being attacked. But I think it's important because it teaches us history that we may not be learning in our K through 12 experience. And so critical race theory allows us to learn a history that even me as a Chicana, I didn't get to learn until I went to college in Minnesota. So I had
mm,
to leave El Paso, my Mexican community, to learn about my own heritage in a Midwestern city.
mm.
So that's what
Okay.
I do. I'm also an advisor. I advise undergrads, and I'm also currently advising some master students on their thesis projects. And so I'm an academic advisor. I talk to students about, you know, their degree plans and their plans for the future, and just kind of help them navigate their way to their goals and to graduation.
Okay. Now you mentioned rhetoric and composition. Now you have a doctorate in philosophy in that degree. Could you tell us a little more about the rhetoric and composition degree?
Yes, so philosophy is basically, you know, how we live our life, why we live our lives the way we do. It's about thought and uh, thinking about these questions and having conversation and discourse. And specifically, rhetoric and composition is how we have conversations and discourse and debates, and it's through rhetoric, which many different people, there are different definitions of what rhetoric may be to one, but it's basically, for me, it's a message that's carefully designed for a specific audience. And I focus on visual rhetoric through because of the composition side of rhetoric and composition. So composition is how we put together stories, how we tell our stories in different modes. So traditionally, we're taught alphabetically. We use letters to tell stories. But I'm focusing on visual rhetoric, which is how we communicate through a CRT lens, a critical race theory lens, how we communicate our identities and culture through the arts, such as comics and film.
Okay. Thank you for that. So back to Ronnie for a second. Ronnie, is there a pivotal moment in your life when you first fell in love with art and the idea of pursuing it as a career? You said, "Hey, this is what I
Yeah,
want to do with this. This is what I,
absolutely.
this relaxation or whatever." Yeah.
Definitely, absolutely. It was I was a part of a program in Chicago called Gallery 37, and that was a job training program in the arts, sponsored by the city of Chicago and at the time Maggie Daley, who was the mayor's wife. But it was basically all of these young people from all around the city, all brought together in one central location or multi locations, but in a central area in the city. And we got summer jobs. We had summer jobs. Basically, I made hats. I had friends who created murals for the city, and all of our products were actually sold as well for the city. I'm sure at their profit, but we actually got paid, and it was our first. A lot of times, for a lot of us, it was our first job. And but the most wonderful thing about that was we were exposed to international artists from around the world. I had a artist who was training me from Prague in hat design and fashion design and things like that, and it was just really awesome to meet people from different walks of life, but also who were professional and who could teach you the ins and outs about certain things and certain jargon and language and lingo. Because a lot of times that's what's hard about becoming a professional in a particular field is you don't know all of the lingo. Every profession has its own language for the most part, and
Mhm.
we were able to learn that at a young age, and that gave me a lot of encouragement. As well as I have an uncle named Fred who brought me on even before that for another my first job,
Okay.
and he is a videographer. He's a single videographer, and I was his gaff. And I just grew up, like putting down cords and wires and things like that,
Mm.
and just helping him to transcribe tapes for hours on end and and things to that effect. And so
Okay.
that gave me a sense to see, like, the how an artist lives and sleeps and works and things like that. Like the behind the scenes, behind the
Yeah.
teaching artist
Mm.
aspect. And so put those two things together, and it was one of those things that was like just ingrained in me, and it was inevitable.
Yeah. So I'm looking behind you and I see all these different pictures and different types of art with your
Sure.
name, your signature. And so can you describe that for us? Your art, can you describe your art for us?
Yeah, absolutely. My art is really much inspired by anime. I grew up on anime. It's very much inspired by American comics as well. Put those, and then as I got older, and I had more of an education about myself and the world around me, I wanted to focus on people of color, people who look like me,
Mm.
people who were could be great or are great and could be seen to be great in all media.
Uh-huh.
And so that's what my art is all about. It's about like seeing ourselves as being great in all media for the most part. And these logos behind me, this is like I have the different aspects of the Duke family crest.
Okay.
As an American Duke, um, of course, there's a whole story behind my name, as there is behind a lot of Black people's names, in this country.
Uh,
And so what I did was I just took the crest, the family crest of Dukes, and I used it and just kind of reappropriated it to my own and just owned it and created our logo and that's been my jumping off point, like so everything I do is about like taking things back and having power about it and also all of our art is featuring intelligent and go-getting characters as well. So that's another aspect of all aspects of our art too.
oh, that's great. That's great to hear, man. So Dr. Dukes, what are some accomplishments you hope to achieve as a professional writer and filmmaker?
Definitely. So I would love to develop some screenplays, write a few screenplays that get worldwide distribution and actually get made into production. Of course, that's every screenwriter's dream, is for your screenplay to actually, get produced and shown in movies globally. But that's definitely a goal that I'm working toward. I would also love to publish some more comic books, stories based on stories that I write. And I also want to write some novels for adults, but also maybe some YA fiction. And then for my research and my work as a scholar, I'm currently working on a nonfiction book about cholos and cholas and consciousness for social justice in community organizing and community building. So I have a long list of work that I want to publish and get produced and distributed.
Outstanding. Well, we look forward to seeing what the future holds for you, and you'll be a great representative for your group and the El Paso community. Now they can see that, hey, you did it. So you set an example for the younger people that come behind you, that hey, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So we look forward to seeing that coming from you.
Definitely.
The
Thank you so
August
much.
You're welcome. The August 3rd shooting in our community opened up the conversation further about racism and what white supremacies and white supremacies. What do you believe can be done in the field of arts to visually bring awareness to the need for the discussion about systematic racism?
So I think that we have to be open about having these conversations. And so I think we need to be able to, one, just address these issues and just, know the facts that someone from outside of our community came with intentions to kill people of Mexican descent or brown people. And so that is an issue that goes back in history, and it's not just a new issue. And so we need to be able to talk about that history and how we got to where we are today. And I think as a community, no matter what kind of entity you belong to, whether you work for an academic institution or the government or any kind of nonprofit organization, is, as take it upon ourselves to think about how are we going to address these topics from our singular community, our own entities that we're a part of. And so I think it's really important that, and I was happy to see businesses posting love and support for El Paso, but it's also great when they go a step further and raise money or resources for people who need support and help. I think we all need to take that extra step. And I think through our local government, we need to have more legislation that addresses these topics. And, we've had some, commemoration days, but again, we need to take it a step further and devote real resources and especially monetary resources to communities throughout El Paso. El Paso is growing. Horizon never used to be there when I was growing up in Chaparral. Like the farthest you went was Lee Trevino. And so there's so much of El Paso that needs to be addressed, not just, downtown and in that area. My dad grew up in Segundo Barrio, by the way. But, like I said, El Paso is much bigger. We need to incorporate Fort Bliss into our community more. And now with what's happening in Afghanistan, we know that, there's going to be refugees that are going to be, transferred to Fort Bliss. And so soon we're going to have to address that issue as a community, is how are we going to welcome these refugees? How is our institution or community organization or church or whatever it is that you're a part of, what can you do to support peace and community building?
Right. Let's take it a step further. So you mentioned a lot of good stuff when you answered that question. So every time we memorialize or we remember August the 3rd, don't you think that, like you say, we should take it a step further? Because for those people that lost family members that day, it was emotional for them. So maybe we could pay for their mental health appointments or something like that. Like you said, we can establish, but it seems like everybody's afraid to sit down and talk about that. It's great to recognize it and say we support you and we apologize and we're sympathetic to your loss, but to take it a step further, some of those people that was their child, their mother, father, uncle, grandmother, grandfather that was killed that day. So as a local community, like you said, we can get together and have some kind of fun for those that are asking for mental health to because they may be still grieving at this point. So we need to think about some of those things. Do you agree with that?
And I think also it's important to remember that it could have been any of us in that Walmart that day. You know, it could have been me. I actually have shopped at that Walmart because it's near the campus where I used to teach. And so it could have been any of us. And so I think that even beyond, you know, of course, giving support to the victims, to the people who were directly affected, but also to talk about this on a much bigger level, which is, you know, who were the targets and why was this even, what was driving this action, and how can we prevent this in the future? So I think I agree with you, more mental health awareness and assistance, but to everyone in the community, and to start talking about these issues and working on them through a mental health perspective and like a wellness perspective in the K through 12 schools, you know, to let them know, look, this is a part of our history now. This is what happened, but this is how, you know, let's us talk about it. How do we want our society to be? We need young people to feel that they also have ownership and that they have a lot to bring to the table. And we want to hear their ideas of how our communities should be and how we should be interacting with one another. We need to empower our youth to actually give ideas and make real legislation happen in our community.
Oh, outstanding. Ronnie, back to you. Another question. Is there an art that you admire whose work peculiar your artistic interest? An artist, I'm sorry, is it an artist? I'm sorry. Is there an artist that you admire or admired whose work peculiar your artistic interest? That you said, hey, I love his art or her art. You know, I love your piece. You know, I have an idea like that. So, you know, you just said, I want to be as good or as better or better than that.
Sure. You know, I'm thinking about all the different painters and illustrators and comic book people that I admire. And the first name that comes to mind is probably Gene Roddenberry. And the reason why I say Gene Roddenberry, after struggling with this in my mind for the past 5 seconds, is because this is a person who created worlds, languages, and created also a world without money, a world that you used a different kind of logic and a different kind of way of being. He was a true futurist, and he was an artist, and that's what I think as a real artist or impactful art really makes an impact on the world. And I think that he is one of those artists, and especially with me being a sci-fi fan and things like that, of course, he definitely pops to mind for that reason. But yeah, I mean, he makes worlds, and a lot of inspiration from our world today has come from that in his artistic inspiration. And so I think that that's a very powerful gift to wield, and I think that it's possible to do it well. And yeah, so Gene Roddenberry would be the one that I think of.
Okay.
I mean, at least as far as like the art, you know, and creating worlds and things like that. Yeah.
Understood. What other art forms are you currently involved in?
Other art forms. I definitely comics. Long form comics is my main art form right now. because I've gone through painting. I'm got my degree in animation. I've showed my work in galleries and things like that. But the thing that I've noticed about those particular mediums and other mediums that I've worked in too is it's hard to get them in a lot of people's hands, or hard to let a lot of people see them,
Mm.
especially at painting, which is hard to like appreciate in its majesty if you're not in the room. So to
Mhm.
see a painting online is a much different experience than seeing it in a museum or a gallery or something like that.
Right.
And so comics was a great way to put all of these different like a portfolio together in a book, so to speak. And I really try to push myself with all of the different frames and all the different work that I do, as if I was painting, different perspectives, and like I try to scare myself, like I say, with every page that I draw.
Right.
And so that's my big challenge right now. I would love to get to the point of a mastery level. And so it's really for me about telling stories, and 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 having the reader feel the expressiveness that the writer felt when they wrote it. That's my main goal right now, and that in my main medium.
Okay. So what or who inspires you when you know what you're doing right now, or just life in general? Who inspires you?
Sure, I'm inspired by the future. People often ask me, if you can go back in time, when would you go? I'd go like 1,000 years into the future, 500
Yeah.
years into the future. I'm inspired by the things that are possible by technology, but also by the evolution of ourselves. By us gaining knowledge, because I think that that's the thing that we're lacking overall, planetary wise, is knowledge. And once we all gain, knowledge of enough knowledge to be confident, and be able to go and live in this world. I think that that's the thing that's gonna make a huge impact, And so that's
Mhm.
my main inspiration is to make sure that I show a world where people are knowledgeable, and our comics and things like that. And there's still problems, and there's still conflict, and there's still things that are going to come up, issues. But imagine if you were doing everything right, but things still went wrong. Then where do you go?
Right.
You're using your teamwork, you're using logic, and you're using this and that. So as opposed to trying to claw up from the dystopia, we're already at a point where we can talk, and now let's tackle this issue.
Right. Let's tackle it. That's good stuff. Um, Dr. Dukes, your community work includes serving as a board member of Equal Footing. Please tell us more about the organization and how we can find out more about it.
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. I'm very passionate about this nonprofit, equalfootingcharity.org. It's a mission to empower women and people of color in the film industry. We know that there is a very few percentage of female directors that work in film, as well as just people of color, and that's just not as directors, but as writers, actors, um, grips, lighting engineers, every role on a film set. Um, we need more people of color to be represented, more Black and brown people to be involved, especially when it comes to telling stories that have to do with us or that includes us.
Yeah.
But also, it's hard for me to watch films, especially because I got a Master of Fine Arts in film and I teach film. I teach Chicano cinema at Utep. And so I'm constantly analyzing film. And so I'm very conscious of what I'm seeing whenever I watch film or television. And lately, one of the things that really bothers me is when I watch programming that doesn't include any Black or brown people, not even as extras in the background. I can't
Right.
believe how many films I've seen where it's just an all white world. And I just think that that's so it's so untrue. It's not factual. It's not based on reality. We know our
Yeah.
worlds are much more diverse no matter where you go. And I just think that it's up to media. I think media has a responsibility. Anybody who is a media maker, who is involved in media, producing, this is a topic that they need to address and that they need to think about, is what worlds are they creating and who are they leaving out and why? And also to look at the damage that does to people of color when we have to watch programming that excludes us. That's something that will affect our mental health and our wellness. And so I think an organization like Equal Footing Charity, there's other organizations such as Ava DuVernay's group called Array. And there's also one in New York called Femme Fatales. And so there's other organizations that support women and people of color, and we're just another one. And I'm really honored to be working with the co-founders of the organization, Lana Inderman and Annabella Sarkeesian. And also I'm just part of a fantastic board, Jeff Valdez, Venetia Aurora Seren, and Lee Kaplan. And of course, Ronnie Dukes is on the board, and I myself am on the board. And each of us are doing working on some major projects. Jeff Valdez, who's also my mentor, is working on television programming for HBO Max. So it's a really professional crew, and I'm just honored to be a part of it. And at this point, I'm following the lead of Lana and Anna, who are the co-founders. But for the first time this year, we're having the first ever 48-hour film festival. It's taking place in San Antonio, Texas, in person this September 17th through the 19th.
September 17th, okay.
Yes, and you can go to the equalfootingcharity.org website to get more information. But we're also looking for a good, some 5 heavyweight female filmmakers. We're having a competition right now where they can submit their work. And the last day to submit, I believe, is September 7th. And so basically, we're going to choose 5 female filmmakers from anywhere in the world. We're going to fly them out to San Antonio, Texas to compete in a 48-hour film festival. So basically, they have 48 hours to make a film. And it's make do with what you have, so it's Rascuache filmmaking. We're going to lend support, but for the most part, they got to figure out how to make it happen. And then their film is going to be shown on HBO Max. So they're going to have a worldwide debut and an audience. And so this is going to be a great exposure for some filmmakers out there. And so if you're interested, please submit to the competition. Again, we're just out here trying to support and promote and advance more women and brown people in front of the camera and behind the camera, and that's our main mission.
Okay, so tell them again if they want to participate, where they can get the information and submit an application.
So if you go right now on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, go to equalfootingcharity.org, and there's going to be a link to where you can submit. It's through Film Freeway. So if you just Google that, Film Freeway, and then look for the Equal Footing Charity Film Competition, and then it'll give you information on how to submit. And basically for your submission, we just need samples of your work to get an idea of what kind of filmmaker you are. And then, just go out and film something today and submit your work and just tell us why you deserve to tell stories on HBO Max.
Oh, outstanding. So Ronnie, I have a question for you, sir.
Okay.
Ronnie, according to your company's mission statement, Dukes Comics exists to bring a positive vision for the future of Black and brown people. It seems diversity is important to your company. Are there any events or topics that encourage this mission, your mission statement?
I'm not sure I really understood the question.
Okay, so they're saying your company's mission statement is to bring a positive vision for the future of Black and brown people. It seems diversity is important to your company,
right?
So to transition is are there any events or topics that encourage the mission?
Yeah, I would say as far as how we're encouraging the mission, like what we have coming up. For instance, I are actually working on a new graphic novel where that actually features El Paso, the El Paso area, that shows it in a different light, a future light, and the way that that I would like to see things revisioned and rebuilt and things like that. So that's actually we're something that I'm working on right now.
Okay.
Beyond that, we actually do have a couple of other really big projects that are coming out as well. One of which is actually with our producer colleague from HBO Max. Unfortunately, I can't release it just yet, but that's going to be
I
really
understand.
big as
I understand.
well. But it's about world building. Everything is about world building, and the great thing is he's somebody who shares our vision as well, as far as like creating a world that is bigger, faster, smarter. And
Yeah.
so I think that everybody's really going to enjoy that. And so as far as like events, we don't not really events coming up that I could think of that are going to be supporting that role, but we will be getting out into the world again really soon.
Yeah.
But right now we're kind of in the lab, so to speak. We have a lot of things on the burner, and hopefully when we come out, we'll come out really representing El Paso in a new light, so people
Yeah.
can start seeing the El Paso as a thriving metropolis, and we start getting, and hopefully some of our plans will start to affect the city's plans as well.
Mm.
Like in our first graphic novel, AWOL,
Right.
we actually featured, and that came out in 2016. We actually featured what we anticipated or hoped would be an arts district in El Paso, and recently, we have an arts district now downtown, in the same general area, and it's just really about anticipating these things and knowing like what's going to come, and so you'll see that in our books. There's I've actually done a lot of research on the true actual plans for the city, so I've actually been mixing in true future plans for the city with futurism, and so we'll be able to see El Paso tomorrow in a possibly true light.
Okay. Do you believe the conversation about diversity is progressing towards actual change? And if so, how can others become more engaged by the use of their own particular art form?
Sure. I think with social media and things like and us seeing and living through each other's experience more than we've been able to in the past. I think that's a way that change is starting to happen.
Okay.
Like very, at its infinitesimal, level. But once we start living through each other's experiences as if we were reading novels, which is another thing that we should be doing, to help to live through each other's experience. Um, I think that's kind of like where we are within the conversation right now, and it's at its baby level. But I think as an artist, though, I think that if you see a need, feel a need, and what I mean by that is do the little things that you can. So like if you are a particular artist of a particular medium, don't be afraid to really express yourself, or if you see an issue, don't be afraid to call out an issue despite your audience or who you might be trying to sell to. And it's a matter of like us being able to learn how to communicate with one another. And artists are great interpreters of between people, great mediators. And so I think that an artist who takes the responsibility to find a responsible message or a palatable way to show their angst that everybody enjoys. I mean, not enjoys, but that everybody can relate to, which is the main thing. I think that is where we should be focusing our abilities. But at the same time, that's just me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would have to give you a shout out because you mentioned a lot, and I have seen what you just discussed. I was at an art exhibit downtown, and since the August 3rd incident, I've seen a lot of artists come out with a different a lot of artists was impacted by that, and their a lot of their art forms changed to working together, living together, loving one another. Those type of art, those type of pictures is what I saw down there, and I think one of them actually won, because the way she put it together, the feeling, it was like she felt what happened on that day, and she put it in her art form. So, like you were saying, they feel it. So it opened the eyes to a lot of people that was at the exhibit that got to see it, and they were like, "Oh, that's a nice piece right there." She just put a lot together with the different races and diversity and working together and loving one another. So I think that, like you said, it's coming together through art, and I think we have to give them more exposure. Those type of art we have to give them more exposure so that they can see that, you know, art can impact me as well. And I'm not an artist, but I like to look at art. So when I see those and I admire their pieces, you can't keep them hidden in the back of the museum. Those, when I walk in, those are some of the pieces that I like to see, you know, to let me know that, hey, you know, even though racism is still alive, and we have a lot of issues, then that art piece might change your mind about a lot of things. So that was, I'm just to say to you, I mean, they're out there and they're doing what they're, you know, what we just discussed.
And that's great. And part of, and now, and I think like a next level would be to marry their art like with other artists around the world who've gone through that similar experience, which we've all gone through at this point. So like, you know, a gallery show with like an artist who you're referring to in your mind right now, that you just saw at the show last night, alongside an artist who was personally affected by Sandy Hook, and an artist who was personally affected by the different things that happen throughout our world, you know, that where it becomes a common language or a language that we need to see that we're all experiencing. And I think that is going to be a great way to help translate or mediate our experiences to come together.
Okay, great. So what are some challenges you have or currently experience as an artist?
Sure. You know, being an artist is challenging to keep your momentum and things like that. But I find that if you write a lot and read a lot, then you can keep your momentum up. You feel less blocks and things like that. I think one of the hardest challenges right now is to find distribution. And as a book publisher, distribution is a beast, you know, that actually gets your books and your stories into the different stores and people's hands. Because right now, not only are we creating all of our books, but we're doing all of our own promotions and things like that as well. And so it's having to put on a different hat that, you know, sometimes you might not even want to wear as an artist, but it's necessary to learn business, learn accounting, to learn so many different aspects that have nothing to do with your actual medium. So I think that that's kind of, you know, where we are right now. Yeah.
Do you ever have, I guess they call it writer's block, but do you have an artist block where you know what you want to do, but it's like, that's not where I want to go with it? Or do you start on it and then you make adjustments as you go along? Do you ever do that?
I have this saying where it's like every stroke was a stroke that you didn't have on the page before. And so I always try to just like, even if I'm not feeling it, I'll just like put my hand down and just try to get something out. But if I can't do that, if I can't do that, then I always go back to my writing, because I have use OneDrive, and I write all of my stories or ideas. Whenever I have an idea, I take out my phone and I'll just like jot it down. And so whenever I have a block on something, I can go and doodle and sketch on the different idea in the meantime. Right. And so that helps to kind of get the juices flowing, because sometimes a long-term project loses its, you lose your infatuation for the project for, you know, a moment. Sometimes it's like a roller coaster. So it's a good way to kind of like keep your mind loose and relax and be able to get back into something else. But definitely, if you're an artist, in any medium, sculptor or anything at all, write. Write ideas, write about things that you've seen, about things that are interesting, because that's going to be your biggest treasure trove of ideas. And it's great to come back to.
Okay. So, what is the current state of art for Black and Brown artists in the field? Do you know? Do you have an idea?
You know, it's 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 possible to get exposure, but it's
Mhm.
not easy, and it's difficult to find support or funding or to find your audience
Okay.
sometimes, so to speak. So it those are my particular experiences. It's really hard to talk on the industry as a whole.
Mhm.
But definitely, from my perspective, it's a challenge to find to get to level up. You know what I'm saying? Like I've leveled up in skills and things like that, and
Mhm.
so now it's about like being prepared for the next step. And so that's why we're working so feverishly on our next few projects, so that
Okay.
when we're ready to go, we actually have work prepared. And so that's yeah.
So, as an artist, have you ever been told you're there, but you're not there yet? And what's that feeling like?
Yeah, and it's I heard it just recently, just like 2 days ago.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
but actually, I and my wife, we since we work together, we're our own and each other's harshest critics. And so my wife will not hesitate to tell me if something needs a beat, if something is not looking right or proportionally speaking, or and she's specifically coming at me as a person who has fresh eyes and who didn't grow up reading comics and things like
Mhm.
that. And so these are the kind of people who I want to read our books anyway.
Mhm.
And so I have to take any artist has to take criticism with a grain of salt. And quite honestly, I am extremely fortunate that I have somebody who's able to communicate an actual criticism to me, because that makes me better. And it's hard to just say, oh, that's good or that's bad, and then the artist has to go change it and figure out,
Right, right.
at least I get like actual critique that is I consider constructive and I can
Okay.
take to the drawing board. And it hurts, like especially if you spend a lot of time on a particular idea, or
Mhm.
you get married to an idea in your head or something like that, but you just have to just like kind of allow yourself to flush it and just relax
Yeah.
and just re-see things.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Dukes.
Yes,
Um,
hi, I'm back. Sorry.
welcome back. Hey, your community work includes serving as a board member of Equal Footing. Please tell us more about the organization and how we can find out more about them.
Okay, sure. So equal footing charity.org is on social media. So you can go to the Instagram, the website, the Twitter, and Facebook. And also on our website, I believe we'll have a link as well. So if you just go to dukescomics.com. But the other community work that we're also involved in is with the Alzheimer's West Texas chapter. The Alzheimer's Association has worked with us on creating journaling and doodling workshops. And this started right before the pandemic. The workshops were supposed to be face to face, but then, of course, we had to switch it to online. And at the beginning, we focused on caregivers. As we know, 1 in 3 seniors in everywhere, especially in El Paso, are affected by Alzheimer's and other dementias. And
Mhm.
so it doesn't just affect a particular race, but especially in the Latino community, it's just being able to communicate medical information in Spanish is very crucial. There's a lot of Spanish speaking people in El Paso. And so through our comics, which are becoming bilingual, English and Spanish, we're trying to provide knowledge and education about the disease and dementias, and what it does to your loved one, so that when you have, a young child in your family and they're wondering what's happening with abuelo or abuelita, our comics and other visual material that we're trying to create is just a tool, one of the tools that exists to help families and people talk about other, Alzheimer's and other dementias that affect their family members. And so these workshops are online, and we have recorded some of them, and they're on our website at dukescomics.com.
Outstanding, outstanding. So many youth desire, this is for you, Dr. Dukes, I'm still talking. Many youths desire to pursue various art forms as a career, but are often met with negative responses, sometimes from the parents. How can parents encourage their child or child's pursuit of art without discouraging them about the lack of employment availability? How can they encourage their child without discouraging about the lack of employment availability within the art?
Yeah, I would say you definitely want to encourage your child's imagination. And even if you don't have children, I'm an auntie, I'm a proud auntie. I have more than 20 nieces and nephews. I even lose count. But I love all my nieces and nephews. And so anytime I'm around young people, and I've done a lot of community work. I used to work with, I was a general manager for Harlem Repertory Theater in Harlem. I'm sorry, Impact Repertory Theater in Harlem. And they're an Academy Award nominated youth group. And what they do is they get together and they write music, they perform choreography and dance, and they sing and they produce music. And they actually got to do one for for a film that was being shot in their neighborhood. And then the film ended up, it's called August Rush, and it got nominated for their original song that they created for the film. So I've been around young people a lot through my work. When I was a graduate student at Columbia in New York City, when I was working on my film degree, I was a teaching artist. And so I worked in the Bronx, I worked in Queens and Harlem and Lower Manhattan, East Side, Lower East Side. And I worked from the youngest grade was second grade all the way through seniors in high school. And I used to teach them documentary production and theater production. And so basically, I guess what I know from working with youth is that it's important to just encourage their imagination, even if you don't understand it, because I do understand that sometimes there's parents who don't have creativity in them, and so it might be hard to connect with your child. But if you see them having an interest in reading or even comics or drawing or dancing or singing, even if it's just for the moment, of course, kids are going to change hobbies every week. But I would say encourage it as much as you can. I know that's something that my parents did. And we were working class family. My dad was the only one working in my family. My mom, she was a recent immigrant, and there was, I have 10 brothers and sisters, and so, we didn't have much, but, and so what I did is I would write a lot. I had a huge imagination. I don't know where I got it from, but since age 2, my mom says I would just talk and tell her stories about people in other countries. Like, how did I even know that other countries existed? Or how did I even know what a country was? I don't know. But she said I used to just talk and talk and talk, and that she would just let me. And she encouraged me to write it down. And then she would encourage me to send these letters to my friends. And so she would walk me to the mailbox. And between her and the post lady, the delivery worker, they just, they pretended that my letters were being mailed. And so she knew that I had a interest in writing. And so she encouraged it. My dad, he used to do art projects with me. He was in construction after he got out of the Marine Corps. Once a Marine, always a Marine. So he was always a Marine. But he, later in his life, he was a construction worker. And so he worked with plaster and all kinds of materials that you use to build a house. And so anytime I needed to create something for any of my classes, he would always help me. But, it was always, I was the kid that came to class with like a a Kachina doll made out of plaster, and it was like
Yeah.
super heavy, and
Okay.
but it was because those were the materials that my dad had. And so, but he was involved and he created with me. And
Right.
so I think that that had a huge impact on me. So I would just tell parents, try to be patient, even if you're not interested in comics or you're not interested in what your kid is interested in. It's important to just at least, just hear them out, get to know them, try to understand why they like the things that they like, maybe just ask questions. I recently got to spend a few days with my nephew, Caleb, in San Antonio, and he's like 7 years old, I believe. And his thing is he likes to watch other people gaming on YouTube.
Right.
And I'm just like, wow, this is what he does all day. And so I just
Yeah.
started watching it with him, and I would ask him questions, and we just bonded. And so I would just say have patience and encourage imagination. Imagination is so important for the future of our world, right? We need innovators, we need scientists, we need people to create and invent things that will make our world better. And
Right.
so it's important, it's so crucial to encourage young people to have imaginations and just let them dream. You don't have to be monetarily rich to dream.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as the owner of a publishing company, do you hope to publish other artists or writers who are located here in El Paso?
I think we're definitely open to it. I think that right now we use a hashtag called One Writer, One Artist, because that's
Mm.
literally what we are. There's just two of us so far in our company.
Okay.
And, it's faster for me to write, and it takes longer for the art to come out. Because Ronnie is penciling, inking, coloring, and lettering,
Uh-huh.
and it takes forever, and it's so
Right.
I have to be patient. And in the meantime, if I'm not writing, I'm teaching.
Okay.
And so we are definitely interested. I think I would let Ronnie be the boss as far as like, finding other artists to draw with or to even help with inking, because I really think that it's really difficult to find people that you really sort of gel with.
Mhm.
And so, there just has to be a connection. And so that would be up to Ronnie to, figure out how that would work. But I'm hoping but yes, I would definitely be interested in helping people to develop their stories. Of course, I have to think about, my time as well. So, but, I'm not terribly expensive. But, if people need, assistance with developing a script, or if they just, I'm a good advisor, which is
Yeah.
why that's part of my job at Utep. And
Right.
so I'm happy if people want to just reach out to me, and then we can talk about setting up some time. But I know that far into the future, or maybe in the near future, we hope to get some type of production deal or distribution deal where we do have a huge budget, and there
Yeah.
are going to be like a huge team of animators, assisting us. So right now we're just like the little engine that could, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah. I
and
understand.
as we continue full steam ahead, we hope to start, garnering partnerships, distribution deals, business associates, all of that stuff. We're open to it.
Okay. So, Ronnie, can you share some words of advice for El Pasoans on why and how we can support the arts and artists here on the border?
Yeah, there's a couple things you can do. The first thing is definitely support local stores and venues that carry local artists. There's a few different stores that carry local artists, t-shirts and paintings and earrings and things like that. That's one way you can help local artists. Another way is to go to the social media of local artists. Go to social media of the artists from the farmers market or whatever your favorite gallery is, Galleria Lincoln or the El Paso Museum of Art or maybe not the yeah even local there's even local artists there in fact
Mhm.
and go to their social media. You should like their work, share their work. Find things that you do like and write a little something about them. I like this because that goes a long way towards for an artist. If an artist is selling an item, write a review on Google or write a review on Amazon for whatever product that they're actually selling. So those are some free things that you can do. If you don't have like disposable income, but you can definitely support local artists that way. And whenever you can, definitely purchase things. Go to dukescomics.com. That's a great way to get started. We actually have our books for sale, but also too, we offer, like Elvira said earlier, we believe in giving back as much as we get, if not more. So we offer free workshops, and you can keep abreast of our free workshops that way. We offer even a free comic book. So you can go to our website, and we actually have a free flippable 3D 3-dimensional comic book to give you an experience. You know, if you can't necessarily afford to purchase our book, you know, we can still give you an experience, and we're happy that you come to our website. And please just write a review, or follow our website or our social media in response, and do that for all of your favorite artists.
Okay. So, Ms. Dukes, can you please tell us more about your current project, AWOL, and any upcoming initiatives or projects from the Dukes Comics?
Yes, so AWOL, pronounced AWOL, it's a military term that means it's a soldier who has left the base
Absent
without
without leave.
permission. Yes, absent without leave. And as I mentioned earlier, my dad was a Marine, and there's a lot of military in my family. I have a niece that's currently a sergeant, and she's serving in the Army. I'm very proud of her. And so the project, it's a full-length project that started off as a screenplay. I wrote it shortly after I graduated from film school, and I did go to writers workshops to further develop it. And then I came to Chaparral, where I grew up, and I decided I was going to try and make a production out of it. And I even hooked up with a class at Utep, and I was able to get the students to be part of a film production for credit. And so they participated in the making of this movie. And you know, so it's a big action. It's about a Chicano soldier that goes AWOL in order to save her brother who's been kidnapped. And so it's like an action adventure. You know, it's her trying to find her brother, and at the same time it kind of raises this question about duty and loyalty, you know, when it comes to family, but you're serving your country, and just the sacrifice that it takes to be a soldier. And so this girl, you know, she kind of makes some, you know, risky decisions in order to, you know, be there for her family. And so she does. So it's sort of a look into her community, and as she's trying to find her brother. And so it's over 100 pages. I wrote it as a screenplay. In the end, I tried to raise money for it. So again, this is like a feature film is more than 50 minutes. So I was shooting for about an hour and 20 minutes. And, you know, when you're making a feature film, you're shooting for at least 20 days. And we were filming in the middle of the summer in the desert. I had a lot of support as far as free locations and food, and but as far as professional crew, I wasn't able to pay anyone. And so there was a lot of me teaching while we were filming. And so it was a great learning experience. I learned what it was like to film for 20 days straight. Actually, we shot for about 22 days. Wow. And even by day 14, I was like, oh my God, can I do this? You know, it was like a mental exercise as well as a physical exercise. You have to, you know, you're enduring heat, you're carrying a lot of equipment. So in many ways, it's like being in the military, sort of. So basically the book, I made the film, and then I decided after I made it that it's not the quality that I want my first feature film to be like. And so I asked Ronnie if he would be willing to adapt it into a comic book. And so I had already done all the storyboards. And so Ronnie, of course, my storyboards are stick figures, and then Ronnie made them, you know, beautiful works of art. And so the book came out in English originally, and then it got translated to Japanese. And we submitted it to Tokyo Comic Con, and it got accepted. And so we were at Tokyo Comic Con a few years ago exhibiting the book. And also we had a great sort of reception to the book. A lot of people came up and immediately picked up the book and started reading it because they wanted to know if it was a a good translation, or if we were
Right.
just, people, trying to like just, I don't know, take their
Critique it.
culture.
Yeah.
But we had an actual Japanese young woman, Ryoko, who was based in her husband was in the military, and they were based here. And I met her through a colleague, and she was a student at the El Paso Community College, and so she translated it. She's from Okinawa, and so when people at Comic-Con read the translation, they were like, "Wow, who did your translation? This is really good." And so we
Right.
immediately knew that we were legit just based on their reactions when they started reading it. And then, of course, what drew them, first of all, to our booth was just the artwork, because we had huge banners and we really stood out. And to give you an idea, there were about maybe like 30 artists globally. And I think from the US, there was maybe like 5, like, a handful. And right down from where we were, like 2 tables down, was this major, I can never say his name, Kim Jung-ji. Please look him up. He's amazing. And so, I mean, we were next to, these pros who have been doing this for so long, and it was just humbling. And also it was just great to be accepted by another country and other different culture. People really embraced us, and they really embraced sort of the urban culture that we depict in our work. And also they knew where El Paso was. I said it's right on the border of US and Mexico, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we know where that is." Like, they know about our border. Like, everyone around the world knows the US Mexico border, whether it's for whatever reasons, right? It's always in the news. And so they knew exactly where we were from. And also there's a military base in Okinawa, or like near in the Tokyo area. And so we also got to meet American soldiers while we were there. So we sold out of our English copies and our Japanese copies. And then about a year ago, we also got it translated to Spanish. So that's one of our other goals, is to make our work accessible in different languages to reach a wider audience.
Right. Okay. Well, we come to the end of our segment today of the El Paso Black Expo. We just want to thank you both for coming on the show. But before you go, as always, we just want to know if you have some last encouraging words for the people that are watching today. We'll start with Dr. Dukes. We'll start with you.
I would say, to have faith in yourself, believe in yourself. If there's people, loved ones in your circle that believe in you, or that say, "Hey, that's really good what you're doing," hold them tight, keep them near you, and just and keep at it. Every day you have to work at it. It's not going to be easy. Nobody's ever going to hand you anything or make it easy for you. But hopefully now, with the artists that are up and coming, we're paving the way, and I always give thanks to my ancestors and the people who paved the way for me. And so I just, I would say, believe in yourself, because sometimes there's going to be, you're going to get no's, you're not always going to get what you hope to get. And so you have to find it within yourself to just keep going, and to not give up, and to just keep at it and keep working, and find ways to connect what you're doing to the real world. So if you're good at, graphic design, think about how you can that, that kind of
That's
work.
a new thing. It's up and coming with the young people, graphic designs, art. So especially out here, if you go to some of the high schools, when they have those things going on, you see a lot of the young people with great ideas.
Exactly.
And like I said, we just got to encourage them to continue doing what they want to do.
Definitely. And
What
I
do you
think,
have for us? Go ahead.
I was just saying, and we should, promote each other and promote these young people, and we can start doing that through social media. I think El Paso is becoming more connected on social media, and we're a small city. I mean, compared to like New York City or Chicago, so it's not it's not very hard, and it doesn't take very long to spread the word about some good news that happened to a kid, or, you know, a young person who just, you know, won an art contest, or, you know, let's just spread the news and put it out there, put it on social media. And that way we can inspire and encourage.
Yeah. What about you, Ronnie? What you have for us before we get out of here?
Well, I guess the most practical encouragement I can give people is if you have ideas, publish books. Use Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, via Amazon or other sources if you have other sources. But publish books. It's something you can do for free. It's an on-demand service, and it's a great way for anybody to make money. So if you are a photographer and you've been taking wonderful pictures with your phone, put them together in a book. Or if you're a high school student and you have this really cool sketchbook and all of your friends love it, you know, but you know you don't have the one sketchbook, but everybody wants copies. Well, put it all together. Go to KDP. You can anybody can publish their own book, and it also will have an ISBN, so anybody in the world will be able to actually purchase your book. So my encouragement is to get out there and publish your stories, publish your art, publish your photographs, and let the whole world see it. And hopefully you can make money from it. And it's a great portfolio and a great way to start your career.
Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you both for being on the show today. This is day one of the Black El Paso Expo virtually. And we encourage you to watch another one of our live shows coming up this week, tomorrow. And the day after that, we'll be talking about music, business practices, and health. So thank you again for being on the show. Thank you for those that tune in today. And remember to tune in for the rest of the week. We'll talk about music. We'll talk about health and business. So this is educational workshop. So we look forward to seeing you. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
There it is.